What we're going to do is an assignment about our family history.
Australian history is a subject that is studied by all Year 9 students at Blackburn South High School in Melbourne.
What we're going to try and find out is something about our own family. We may be able to find out a family tree if we ask enough people. Maybe there will be some interesting stories from people's families. The sorts of things we'll be looking at is when your family first came to Australia, why they came.
One of the main themes of the course is Australia, a land of immigrants. As part of that theme, a large portion is devoted to researching family histories.
Why you're like you are. I've got a book here by a man who's written how you can actually find out about your family history and your family tree.
Elizabeth Young, a history teacher at the school, found the family histories of students who were in Year 9 last year so interesting that she initiated a project that resulted in the publication of a book entitled Here We Are, Together.
Well, I was really excited after the kids had handed in their family histories to see that there were so many interesting stories that I hadn't really thought of. And I thought, what a shame it would be just to hand these stories back without really letting anybody else have a chance to read them. So I thought perhaps we could just distribute them in some way, photocopy them or something like that. And I was speaking to the community education officer, and she suggested that perhaps I apply for a grant to have them published in a book form. So I did.
Here We Are, Together is a collection of essays written by the students on their personal family histories. They were given 6 months to research their work. David Harding is one of the pupils whose story appears in the book.
I started off when my father, back in the 60s, he used to work for Siemens, and they sent him over to Germany for training, and Mum worked in Bombay with Siemens, and they sent her over to Germany to do training as well. And they met over there and came back, and he got married, and then lived in Melbourne for most of the time till I was born in 67, and my brother and sister later on.
Were you surprised after reading their histories where some of them had come from or where their roots sort of started?
Yes, I was amazed. With a lot of the students who may be second-generation Australians, you don't always know that they have such an interesting background from another country, and that really surprised me.
Blackburn South, as one of Melbourne's eastern suburbs, is thought to consist of working middle-class Anglo-Australians. But these essays uncovered Blackburn South to be a microcosm of Australia in the 80s, a suburb made up of people whose roots range from the United Kingdom across Europe to Asia.
And what sort of interesting thing did you find out about your family?
Well, I've got a great-great-grandmother who was the first white child born in Canberra. And I've got my great-grandfather, I think it was in an encyclopedia of Victoria for something to do with one of the first railways in Victoria. And my grandfather's family were famous in Tasmania for their Kilby's bullseyes.
Annette Yellen discovered these interesting aspects of her family by tracing back her history through a family tree. Until now, she was unaware that she had such famous ancestors.
What do you think the students get out of doing something like that, like tracing their family history?
Well, I think one of the things they do get out of it is a certain amount of self-esteem. I was really hoping that they'd develop some pride in their own background and not be afraid to talk about it and to share it with other people. Has anyone already got some information about their family history?
And this was made possible through the efforts of Elizabeth Young, the industriousness of her students, and a grant from the Victorian Advisory Committee on Migrant and Multicultural Education. Those who read Here We Are, Together will gain an understanding of both the diversity and similarity of the backgrounds of the teenagers in our community.